Welcome, guys. At around February 20th, before VOD coming out, which is the new content for Korea, I switched my Shadowhunter to PS. There's always a bunch of questions, like, one of the most questions that's been always asked was like, why play PS, why'd you switch, etc., all these things. So today, what we're going to cover is I'm going to teach you guys perfect suppression and my experience in Shadowhunter in general. And also, I switched from DISH to PS, so I will share my new build as well, and then why. And I will show you all the options too, so you guys can figure it out yourself, which is the more important thing. Short talk about Demonic Impulse. So the cons about Demonic Impulse, she's the last place in damage, as in if the character is standing still, and then you're having perfect rotations every time. There's a chart for it, but that one is just used as a reference because no raids, the bosses stand still. Again, on the right side is one of the easiest class to perform reliably, and it's hard to die too. And it has nice consistent stagger and destruction, and very simple to build up, and cheapest class after engravings. Now for cons, it's not as tanky as you think compared to other transformation classes like a Machinist, because Machinist gets 60% shield of HP, and they transfer much more often. This is just a super short talk about Demonic Impulse, okay? No need to go super detailed into it. What's ATK situation? The Stone Goddess Moin cut me a 9-7 Grudge Adrenaline Stone. And I have been full relic accessories for a very long time. It's time to switch to 5-3s and a 2 with ancient accessories. This is what it looks like. And it's El Cheapo. Let's say you have a full party of all ancients, and then someone's applying with this shitty ass build. I would not invite myself in, honestly, right? Now going back, off stream and on stream, I've been just testing out and trickshooting myself. This is like a DI. I hit it for, there you see like 38, 38, 38, 38, 39. This is because of the transformation time. The transformation time lasts about this much based on how much spec you have. And then you just hit a bunch of times to see, about 14, 15, 15, 14, etc., whatever. And then I also tested it at PS as well. A couple times. This one peaked at 675. I have no idea why. It's like a little buggy, I guess. So this is just an example. This is not like a finite solution. This is just to show you like, I've been hitting some scarecrows. And in my opinion, it's about the same to me. My cons were I have to get used to new playstyle, which is perfect suppression. It's harder to play comparable to Demonic Impulse. And the pros for me was new taste in playstyle, right? I can play something new. That's actually really big for an MMO. And has potential to be stronger for more damage gems, right? Need to research new builds. This can be a con if I don't have time. And this can also be a pro. So the big question is here. What about the prices stuff? 9-7 stone, 3-3, 5-3s and a 2 requires the most premium accessories. 6-3s only. So it's all 6-3 ancient accessories plus a 9-7 stone is a 5-3s and a 2. And it's based on 95 quality plus, right? Accessory prices are naturally different. Spec accessories are more expensive than crit and swift. Now, when I was building, a level 9 gem was about 110k at this point, which is February 20th, okay? The class accessories here is over here. This was 70k. My PS, if I want to buy something that is DI equivalent, is 460 or 350k. This is 100 quality based stuff. I made the PS build, and the extra gold is used on gems. But the benefit from that was I get to switch my gems if I want to, if I don't want to play anymore, and then I get to play a new build. So I get all the pros, adding the prices into it. So that is the actual reason. For those of you who've been asking me like why I switch and stuff, I just told you guys the reason. Most of the guys in my stream, when they ask why I switch and stuff, they think it's because it's better, or in terms of performance wise. If I just reply because it was cheap, like it's a bad answer. That's why I was gonna make like a full video about it so that they can look at it and see my thought process of it and then see the real reason. So that was the purpose here. Now we're going to talk about perfect suppression. But the thing is, no one really plays this class, honestly. I am probably the only few people who play this build who are in 1600. Well, let's double check for a second. I'm in the top 500. And it's 1610. And there's not that many players who play this build. Perfect suppression Shadowhunter is pretty simple. PS Shadowhunter is a swiftness consistent damage back attacker with double spending shackles. Yes. It's actually bad. It's mana plus identity. You know, whereas Scrapper has the green build, the green bar for shock, that kind of stuff, right? That's identity gauge. In Korea, you kind of call them shackles. Let's say you're performing a certain class to do a certain things, a certain character that it's supposed to do. If it has a requirement, we kind of call them shackles. Like you have to do it in a certain way, and if it doesn't work, if you don't have mana or if you don't have meter, you're not performing the best that you can perform with. Our damage portion is a heavy with demolition, cruel cutter, and decimate, thrust, impact plus, and then sharpen and rising claw about 7 to 8%. So these three, or rather these four skills, add up to, you know, about 75 plus 80% damage portion that you guys have. So technically, this is a 4 damage gem class, but you kind of add the 5th one because you don't know what else like to put it in after. So essentially, it's a minimum 4 DPS gem class, right? Now, let's talk about skills really quickly. So you have demonic slash. Demonic slash is the same thing. You have the synergy here. This can be either 10. This could be either 10 or 4. So when you put it as 10, you know, you can put it as the second tripod where it increases your movement speed. And if you just put it at the 4, you just enable the synergy portion of it, correct? The synergy portion that you have in to do extra 6% damage, right? So you have 2 options. So keep in mind that this can be 10 or 4, and I will explain why this needs to be 4 a little bit later in point of the time. And this also applies only in Korea too. So any other skills that I mentioned, I will also mention Howling and Slasher as well, but anything else is basically not used. Spinning dive's also an option. I'll talk a little bit about it, and spinning weapon too, because it's got a buff. But these two are pretty much off meta. But it is not an unusable thing. So thrust impact is also a DPS skill. Basically, what you do is instead of making this a gauge gain skill, right? You make it this into a DPS skill, whereas in the cooldown increases by 5 seconds, and then you just do more damage on it. So this is a damage skill, right? This is just an additional damage skill that you use. And the tripod, you just use it as like a 3-3-2. Decimate is one of the best skills for both classes. It does decent damage. I don't know why this is not called normal skill, which I will explain a little bit later. But you would usually do the cooldown tripod and the damaging tripod alongside with it. And then you add a wealth rune in there. And then you have Rising Claw. So the Rising Claw, I will talk about it a little bit more in detail versus Slasher. You can either take Rising Claw or Slasher. These are 2 counters. And I'm using Rising Claw because it gives a little bit of meter. And I like the animation for it. There's a clip of me doing the double counter, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's a 2-hit counter. And then it does decent damage as well, right? There's not too much talking about this point on. And as for runes, this is a point where you can actually be versatile with runes. You can have Cleanse Rune, you can have Bleed, you can have Rage, you can have Quick Recharge, whatever. A Demolition, the main DPS skill. Remember, Demolition is the highest DPS skill. So the damaging gem for this particular class, this is the priority point for it. Unique Tripod, that you must have it as level 5. So you have to have the meter up in order for you to activate these skills, which it goes to the next one. The Cruel Cutter as well, right? The Cruel Cutter, I put it as mana. But you can also put it as nimble movement. You can actually put the tripod, but you actually don't have enough tripods to level up. So these has to be stick with level 1. So instead, I think in terms of like the most efficient one, she kind of lacks mana. So I've been using the mana control tripod for Cruel Cutter, and it's been working pretty well. Oh, the Dino was blocking it. So it was 28 versus 13 million damage. So it's like almost basically think about it this way. It's just almost double the difference. This is your main skill that most people use, the main DPS skill. And then you actually have another one, which is a Sharpen Cut. And actually someone uses Spinning Dive for this. So Sharpen Cut, you know, it just does decent damage, and then I put a Focus Rune on it. This skill can also be Spinning Dive that just does damage. I have never tried it, but some people have been trying it just to activate Conviction and Judgment. Everyone has their own different way. This is a personal preference area. So since my Cruel Cutter already have mana recovery on it, what I do is I put the Conviction on Demonic Slash, because it's a multi-hit skill. It hits about 3 or 4 times, which is pretty good enough to activate the conviction buff on it. See? Most of the time it activates it, most of the time. And then I have the cruel cutter that has multi-tick hit to activate the conviction judgment rather pretty easily, right? But some people also put it as sharpened cut, and then you have, instead of mana, you would add something like a bleed or a speed effect, and then put focus rune on this. That's like the other version of it. But the demolition itself, the animation is so long. This is the full animation, right? This is so long to a point that you can't use any other runes than Gale runes. So I kind of suggest the solid set in stone runes for this is like demolition for Gale rune. That's about it. And then everything else, the focus rune even, it can be something else. And then decimate would be like a wealth rune there too. And even decimate can be changed to different runes too. But runes here are very, very some are very set in stone, but there are also preference areas as well. We have Genocide here. Genocide is the demon clone version. I have the damaging skills on it, and then I have the meter gain skill. Okay. Now, you just gain meter with this. That's about it, right? So when you do that, that's a meter gain skill, and since it's your main meter gain skill, you just have the legendary wealth rune on top of this. Okay. Because some of you guys did mention that you guys use slasher, which is totally fine. Most people usually use the crit tripod, and then you have the tripod for damage on top of it, and then you add in whatever free runes that you want. You want like cleanse rune, you want bleed rune, anything. To answer your question about demon clone versus Howl, so people have been asking me, why are you using Howl, or why are you using why aren't you using Howl, or why are you using demon clone? I see that very, very often. Let me show you just a comparison, because this is a preference range as well. So demonic clone gives you 14 to 15, and this one gives you 18 to 19, and the cooldown is 24, and then you have 16 seconds synergy. Half the cooldown time for demonic clone, and then you're paralysis immune, but it has no synergy. We have 420 skill points, so we can actually have 12 all of these, and then have level 4 on demonic slash to use it for synergy. Demonic clone itself is higher meter gain because it uses 2 times faster. Let's say you are using Howl as level 7, as most people do. A beneficial point for Howl is if you just have it like this, and then you have the meter gain wealth rune here, like this, you gain a lot, right? You just land one Howl, and then you don't have to worry about things, and then land your skills based on whatever that you needed to do. And then your demonic slash can be level 10. Therefore, you can actually move a lot faster. But the con part for Howl is if you miss, you're kind of like in a smudge spot. That's like the different part about it after I tested it out. But when I went to demonic clone, this one rotates much faster. And then you actually have a lot more meter to not worry about. Sometimes if I do it really well, the meter is like, I have a lot more meter and I actually don't have to worry about meter. So using demonic clone, it seems to be a little bit better for me. But the con part, the real bad con part, is demonic slash is 8 seconds. And has 8-second cooldown. So your synergy is like halved. And every 8 seconds, you actually have to land your demonic slash in order for you to have the synergy up in time. So sometimes when I rotate my skill, I forget doing this, and then I use my main skills without synergy on. That's actually pretty bad too. You know, I'm missing 6% damage, correct? Those are the pros and cons for both builds. So if you have Howling at 7, you have 10 demonic slash, right? And then you don't have to worry about synergy for a while, and then you have your freedom of relying on having the speeds and stuff with a little bit of less gain. Or you want to use demon clone with level 4 demonic slash to have a little bit more gain, have reliable gain, and then just a little bit more damage, but you have to be reliant on having level 4 demonic slash. That's about it. I've been looking at a bunch of different builds as well. It's like kind of 50-50 because everyone, again, not that many people play this particular build in the first place. The performance is all about the same. And at the end, if you play an entropy class, you actually have to play what is more comfortable for you so that you actually perform a little better instead of a build that everyone does. So that is the conclusion for Demon Clone Howl, and then the reason why I have Demon Clone instead. Slasher and Rising Claw. So most of you asked me this too. So this is the same thing. So this one, meter gain is 4-5, and then cooldown is much longer, and then it's 3 hits, it's higher DPS per hit, and this one's meter gain is a little smaller, and less cooldown. It's faster cooldown, so it's a little higher overall DPS because it's rotated more often, correct? So from this point, this is also preference range. But in my opinion though, the reason why I like the claw better is even though this cooldown is a little bit longer, the skill rotation itself is so fast to a point that you don't want the skills to be too fast, because you won't have time to land all of them. So as you guys see on basically in any other raids that I do with my friends, you know, it's super simple. When you just start, you have no meter, you just use your awakening, you just get the meter back, and then you always start with demonic slash, right? And then you activate your conviction judgment with the first spender, and then use your demolition, right? These two are your priority. Rotating these two are your priority while having the meter. And then you have these 3 skills priority. You have decimate as priority, and then you have thrust impact, and then you have your sharpen cut, right? Sharpen cut, and then you have the fourth priority, which is the rising claw and the demolition, right? I actually don't use demolition if I have too much meter, because by the time I use demolition, these two come back on cooldown. That's a problem. So this class is actually pretty simple. I thought it was a lot more complicated than I thought, but as long as you land your synergy, do your conviction judgment on the 2 spender skill, and then do your regular DPS skill rotation, and then you build meter while you are getting your 2 spender skills back. Also, when you do it this way, rotate the spender skill, always rotate decimate, always rotate thrust impact and the sharpen cut. And these two doesn't need to rotate every time, but let's say you're in a situation, this is coming back on cooldown and these are back cooldown as well. You have to prioritize on spending the spenders first, right? Right, because if you rotate everything like this, right, because you kind of gap close, right, and then you rotate here, you're usually waiting for a cooldown, and then you do it again like this. But when I fight a bunch of raids with Howl plus Demon Clone was a lot more comfortable for me. It's just that I don't know how NA would do it because they have less kill points, right? But it would be level 4 demonic slash, and then I guess some of the skills would be level 11 instead. And also at the same time, I mentioned before, I put cooldown gem on demolition instead of putting damage gem on rising claw because I want to rotate it even faster. It's only like 8 seconds. I have yet to have a problem where I ran out of identity meter. Even that itself, that kind of removes the penalty of requiring meter to do decent damage with the meter spender. But I still have problem with mana. But when I have a proper support that rotates Heavenly Tune very fast, I have no mana problem either. Now the important part, the build part. So build 1, no 9/7 stone. This is ancient accessory based, okay? Because you guys are getting ancient accessory in April. So 5 3s and a 1 may be going to be on a main level range. You have Grudge, Raid Captain, Adrenaline, Master of Ambush. This is your primary engravings that you need. And then you have choices between Keen Blood and Cursed Stone, and then class 1. And the build 2, 9/7 stone is Grudge, Raid Captain, class 3, Master Ambush, Keen Blood, Cursed Stone, Adrenaline 2. And then my build is I have Cursed Stone instead of Raid Captain. This is a funny class. Over here, as I said, slides over here. Class 1 is 20% damage increase, and class 3 is 30% damage increase. However, this is actually a trap as well. It says normal skills. Purple skill is not considered as normal skill, and it takes a big portion of the pie of the DPS. The actual damage increase is about 5 to 7%. So I kind of said this. I kind of saw this in like the Invent post about it, who actually does the math and things. There was like all these like decimal points, but I kind of put it into like a raw number so that you guys kind of get it off of a simple term. 5 to 7% is lower than a general engraving, which is from level 2 to 3, which is 8%, right? So this is a weird class where if you have a 9/7 that is not an adrenaline, it's actually worse than a 5 3s and a 1. Like I said, and some people do say it as well, this is actually a really bad class, and it needs a little bit of rework. Because this is the only class that has a worse build if you have a 9-7 stone. That is a reverse. Regardless of what it is, unless you have a 9-7 adrenaline stone, you don't need to buy books. Because this class is forever a class 1 engraving build. And as level 3, unless you have an adrenaline stone, which has I do, it is okay to do it. But apparently it's like about the same too. It's like a 1% difference because the efficiency of the class engraving level 3 is so bad. Now as for combat stat distribution, right? So I put this as crit and this as swiftness. To remove the confusion, I know you guys have bracelets. I put this as just accessories, okay? If you add the pet buff and if you add the general stat, plus if you add bracelets, this will be like 1800. This would be about crit 70%. And this will be about 80, 84, 88, and 100. This is a half-half, and this is one earring on swiftness. The reason why DPS is highest on the swiftness is because your cooldown is coming back down very quickly, correct? The theoretical DPS that you're supposed to have is the highest if you have a lot of swiftness. But the problem is, this class has mana problems. If you're rotating your skills way too much, so it's about 11 to 12 seconds, this can be as short as 8 seconds to 9 seconds. This, to me, some people do have this, but it's unrealistic DPS, and it has the maximum attack speed. So with that, we have another problem where if you actually put a little bit more on crit, you're over critting because of entropy. The entropy set, and your attack speed's pretty slow, and your cooldown's pretty slow, so you need a higher level cooldown gem. So this class is also like kind of in an iffy situation. If you have too much swiftness, you're lacking mana. If you have too much crit, you're over critting. As I had mentioned it here, if it's too fast, is my mana and identity gauge gets dry, right? You can't stay at the boss's back for too long anyways too. So again, if too much crit, you over crit due to the nature of the class, entropy, and back attack, etc. So I ended up as half-half, right? So what's going to do is I have half-half here to, let's say I go swiftness. If I switch to swiftness, if there's a crit synergy in my party, I can switch to the swiftness. If I don't have crit synergy in my party, I can switch to crit. So I can go back and forth. And more crit accessory you have, the cheaper it is. Because crit accessory is the cheapest in the market. And you guys would have a question, which also you guys had it during my live stream as well, is why do I have Cursed Stall instead of Raid Captain? Because it was cheaper. It's 5 times cheaper. So this one was Cursed Stall, and this one was Raid Captain. In conclusion, half-half is good. If you guys are thinking, oh, I only have a ring on crit and I have rest on swiftness, that is also good too, because it's in a ballpark range of crit synergy and the rotation. If you have more swiftness, you can have less level gems because you have a higher cooldown and higher speed. If you have more crit, you have high chance to crit, and then all that stuff together. So, what's the conclusion, chat? I like it and it's fun. It's a new place of playstyle. You guys have seen me play this in play this class in VOD. I had no problem with it. I got MVP sometimes in damage, right? I got really happy about it. The combat style of this particular build is pretty fast and it's enjoyable because I like the sound too. I like the sound that it makes. That's the A to Z decision that I did, and then, you know, the conclusion of the stuff that I had. Okay. Also, the little bit of copium here is, I think this class is definitely in the next in line for balance patch. The more and more I research about this class, there's so many screws that are like off. They either need to fix it or I mean, they can leave it alone. That's fine. So that concludes it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know some of you guys did not enjoy it in chat, but you know, I got rid of it. I gulagged them and they're never coming back probably unless they apologize. But for those of you who are playing PS, if you guys are having fun, the purpose is to share my thought process, right? And to share the actual experience so that you guys can apply it to your builds or your plays, all right? That's the whole purpose of it. You guys don't need to buy anything right now. You guys don't need to delete your characters or anything. No classes have any problem clearing the current latest content that just came out 2 weeks ago. So for those of you who are having really fun with DI or PS Shadowhunter, you don't have to worry about it too much. Cool. Hope you guys liked it.